Hello again, everybody. It has been a minute. Wow, like probably 6, maybe 8 months since I've actually done a review. I have seen a lot of movies that I have wanted to review that I felt like this would be a good one to review. For instance, John Wick 4 or Scream 6. All great movies that I probably should have just sat in front of this camera and talked about for however many minutes that goes on for. But I procrastinated. So what do? I watch a Netflix series that I thought wasn't going to be any good, and I think now's the time to make a video. So Netflix has a new show called The Night Agent, and The Night Agent is every bit of a 90s political thriller, or early 2000s political thriller for that matter, that you would want. It starts out with this guy who's an FBI agent, and then there's this explosion that happens on this train. And long story short, the bomber gets away, he doesn't catch him, and then next thing you know, he's being kind of demoted, but also promoted to the White House, but it's like one of the lowest jobs you could have in the White House. So he's essentially at this desk every night from like, I think 8 p.m. to 4:30 in the morning, just waiting for anybody to call him with a specific need, but like very, very few people would ever call him for this specific problem. And of course, one night there's this girl that needs his help. She calls him on the phone, and he is set out to protect her from evil 90s spy thriller bad guys. Now, what I liked about this show the most is just how it really hooked me by really the end of episode 1. I was easily invested in where the story was going. I wanted to see what happened. It's kind of that escort mission type show where guy has to protect girl. They have to get from one destination to the other. Sounds very similar to a little show called The Last of Us that just came out, which in my opinion is peak television, peak gaming, and it'll stick with me for the rest of my life.
It's okay. Okay. It's okay, baby girl. I got you.
It still hurts! But I'm a sucker for those kinds of stories. I like that kind of stuff. And then you throw in a political thriller that just keeps unraveling until basically the original plot of the show isn't even a main focus anymore. You got me. I think what this show does best is how it really balances all these characters, because there's so many plots, so many different characters. Like I said, by the end of the show, that first plot line that's introduced is so small compared to everything else that ends up happening within 10 episodes. So you have all these different characters, and I feel like if this was a movie, it would feel so cluttered and so convoluted, and I'd probably be sitting in front of this camera telling you that it should have been a TV show or a Netflix series, and thank God they actually did it that way. This show is like a blend of Designated Survivor and 24. So much so that I feel like the entire show is paying an homage to those two shows, because it has the political thriller aspect and the action aspect of both shows, and also the main character's last name is Sutherland. Like, come on. If that's not a reference to Kiefer Sutherland, I don't know what is. And in that fact that the story keeps going, it never once bored me, at least. It might feel like, okay, we have gone so far from where we started, but it never really took me out of it. I just kind of accepted that, okay, this is the story, this is where we're at. And because it's such a fun show, it never really bothered me. And I'm not like, there's not some IP that's connected to this that I'm really passionate about. And I feel like, oh, they wasted time here and there. Like, I felt like every character was utilized very well. It was used to the show's advantage. I think they do a really great thing at the beginning of every episode. Whatever character that episode focuses on the most, they give a little backstory right before the title card shows up for every episode. So you can kind of get behind every character that is being introduced. You don't necessarily condone what they're doing, because they also do this with some of the villains, but you can understand that this person also has a story and they are integral to the plot, and they do have their own life and they're trying to figure things out for their own future. And it's really interesting that the show took it that route, that these aren't just cookie cutter characters. They wanted to flesh out as many characters as they could. And there are a few characters that I felt like didn't really need to be in the show. There's this couple they're like two assassins, and yes, you need them for the beginning of the conflict, and there are definitely reasons for them being there. But I think just where they took their characters and how they really wanted me, they tried to get me to care about like their relationship. I just really didn't. I felt like I was more invested in the core part of the story, which is about this agent and this girl that he's trying to protect and keep from these bad guys. But then you have other characters like Secret Service agents and vice presidents and things like that, and it's just they even give you a backstory to them as to why they act the way that they do. And I think that was a really smart idea to do that. And as this show started out, I thought that the acting wasn't really that great. It was cheesy, it was predictable. Like, I thought, like, for a minute I was into like episode 2 and I could figure out, I knew I was figuring out like what was going on, and I was like, if they're gonna make this go on for 10 episodes, I'm gonna get really bored really fast. And to my surprise, they flipped the whole script on me. Yes, my predictions were somewhat in line with what was actually happening, but there was also more going on. So in reality, this show is actually a lot smarter than I thought it was going to be. I give credit to the writers of this story because I feel like even if they weren't trying to pay homage to 24 or one of those other political thriller shows, or even movies like Olympus Has Fallen or White House Down, it really felt like something in that vein of a story. They took the time to write out their characters individually. They took the time to craft a story that kept elevating and elevating and elevating. And really, that, for me, those are the best aspects of 24. They start as one thing, and then by the end of the season, it's something completely different. It has been an unraveling plot that happened over the course of 24 episodes, which was 24 hours. So really, there's just 8 really bad days for Jack Bauer in that show. But that's what keeps me hooked in these kinds of shows, is that you keep pushing the characters along, pushing the plot. Even if you go back and start it over and you think that, how does this get from here to here? It's crazy. But the show knows that it's crazy. By the end, I found myself caring about a lot of these characters that I didn't feel like I was going to care about at all. I cared about the story, I cared about where it was going, and just how it progresses, as I have said, is insane. It's ridiculous, but I love it. Sometimes you just need to sit on your couch for 10 episodes and just have a good time. And that's what this show gave me. This show knew what it was, it did what it was supposed to do, and I'm excited to see more. So guys, if you haven't checked out The Night Agent yet, I highly recommend it. I think that those 10 episodes, those 10 hours are worth your time. If you could do me the honors, do the usual, like and subscribe. That would be so helpful for me and the channel. All 25 of you, I love you, and I'll see you again soon.